Oh, that's awesome. That's so
Oh,
funny.
y'all. You know,
Hell
Connor,
yeah.
I want to tell you, your displays look so dope. Like,
Thank
you
you.
really beefed it up.
Yeah, I also like, yeah, so I picked up a couple from Poker Dreamer, and obviously, but also like I used to sit over there, but I put a desk on this side of the room so that people could actually see my stuff instead of Syracuse basketball on a light. So I tried.
It looks good. Have any of you
Thank you.
guys been participating in the Eevee Day today? Sylveon, man, all you need are 7 hearts. After this, I'm going to get my last heart so I can finally get a Sylveon.
I forgot
haven't opened
Pokemon Go.
Yeah, I haven't opened Pokemon Go in like months, I feel like. I don't know. I like it alerts me all the time, like the notifications come up and I want to play, and then I'm like, I don't know what I'm not doing this right now. I don't know. It just like escapes me. I forget.
Oh, I gotcha.
I know, but it should be.
Gotcha.
It's Eevee. Yeah, it's some special Eevee thing, right?
No, it is. It's all Eevee stuff today. So yeah, there's like a shit ton of Eevees. I caught my first shiny. So
Ooh.
I'm turning the shiny into Sylveon. I just gotta, remember to finish the things. Cause I think like to evolve Eevee to Sylveon, you need 70 hearts, which is a shit ton of hearts. If you remember, like when you have your buddy, right?
Yeah.
Did you play when it first came out?
I thought you just named them something else and then.
So that was the hack. That was from the cartoon that when it first came out, you could name them the Flareon, the Vaporeon, and the Jolteon after the ones on the show, and they would evolve into those specific ones. But now, it only worked once though.
Yeah, like now, I think I can't remember if it's Umbreon or Espeon. It's probably Espeon. But like, for example, you need to walk 10 kilometers with your buddy and then evolve them at night. And then you get the Espeon. You can get Jolteon, Vaporeon, and Flareon. Those are just like randos. So you can randomly evolve and you can kind of get them wherever. But if you want like the special ones, Leafeon, Umbreon, you have to do some stuff. You have to, but anyways,
yeah, I just
it's
did
random.
That hack. I did the naming hack. That's how I got, I think, a Flareon or whatever. I don't remember.
It's a lot easier to play now than when it first came out, when you had no idea what was going on, because you couldn't see the IDs. You had to like hack. I used to have to like hack into like some weird website, and I also used to spoof my location too. So
Did you really?
Yeah. So it was like playing the game. It was almost like playing the Game Boy game, but on your phone. So like I used to travel. So I would make it simulate all the way to like England or Australia, so you can go catch the specific region ones.
Oh yeah, but then people got banned for that.
The company that used it so they would just shadow ban you, so you couldn't catch anything for like 5 minutes. But the company who created that app got sued for $5 million because they basically took the server and just hopped off, like just made like a duplicate and then made a way to go back into it, and they were spoofing the system.
Wow, I had no idea.
That's why it was so slow, because everyone was trying to cheat the system, and all those other companies were making it so you could fake where you were, but they were also slowing down the other servers.
See, so that's what was happening, because I left the game super quick because of those stupid servers. Always, failing, super slow, low tides were shitty. So
they also like it just like exploded. Like they had no idea that it was gonna.
Yeah,
it just took over that
server overload. Yeah. Did you guys ever play the Harry Potter version? The like
I tried it.
Night one. Yeah, I tried it, and then it
wasn't that fun,
man. I just don't like staring at my phone while I'm outside. That's the problem. It's hard. It's like I don't know. I just like it's hard for me to play sometimes.
Honestly, I can understand that. Yeah, I can understand that 100%. Like at this point, the only reason I do it is because I have like a daily goal for steps just to keep active. Cause we spend so much time sitting down at a desk, right? I'm like, no, I'm going to be better about it. I'm going to be more deliberate. So I'm thinking, okay, if I'm walking, I might as well also beef up my stats. Like I'm at level 29 now, which isn't much, but Step by step.
Cool.
Well, y'all, this is great. Before you got on, Connor, James and I, we were talking about how, like, one of these days, if and when we ever go to a card show or Comic-Con, we should do the full cosplay. So I'm expecting.
Oh my God.
I'm expecting Buff Meowth. Okay, Buff Meowth.
Are there mouth costumes? Can I get that somewhere?
There's gotta be.
Oh
There's
my
gotta be
God,
some out
there
there.
has to be.
We can make
like,
it work.
Even just like a mask with hands, it would be hilarious. It would be so funny. Oh my God. I was literally, I'm not gonna lie, I was just watching Pokemon movie 2000 or whatever. I think I might like try to like watch them all like over time just for the heck of it, because I don't know how many of the Pokemon movies I've seen, but I'm really still trying to figure out. There's so many. There's so many, and I'm still trying to figure out if this Coco movie, or I guess like in English it's Secrets of the Jungle, if it's ever actually going to come out in the United States, and if they're gonna do it in theaters or if they're just gonna like release it online. I don't know how they've done like recent releases. I don't really remember, but I could see them just like doing it with Netflix and releasing it straight on Netflix.
Demon Slayer had that same issue with their movie too. They were trying to figure out how to get it in because the theaters were just, there was no point going to theaters. So
yeah,
Demon Slayer came out with a movie.
So they
like a live action.
No, it's a part. It's a part of
it's
the anime. They broke all the records of. Was it Spirited Away? Had all the records in Japan. It broke all.
Are
of
you
them
serious?
Yeah, it's
Demon Slayer is a good show. I've only seen season 1 though. I don't know if season 2's out or not.
Yeah. Not yet, but
I haven't dove much into it. But the movie looked cool. So
the artwork.
Anything that gets live action is awful.
Like, turns to shit completely. Complete shit.
Good old Airbender.
That started it all, right? And then there was Death Note that came out, which was
William
pitiful.
Dafoe didn't even read the manga and he played the Shimigami. And I'm just like, how do you even understand the role you're playing if you've never read it or watched it? Like, it was mind-blowing to me, and it was terrible. It was so it's like anytime they try to live action a video game movie or a video game into a movie or an anime into a live action show. So that's why, like, is this Pokemon show going to be terrible, or is it going to actually work out?
I hope not. I'm hoping it's good because I have cards I want to sell that are hopefully going to be based off the show. So
yeah, it'll be 2 or 3 years from now probably, so it'll be perfect timing.
Yeah.
The only anime movies that I like that are based off shows are those 50-minute recaps.
Oh yeah.
When you go back. Oh yeah. Those are the only. Well, no, I do like the like Spirited Away, and those movies. Those actual movies were bomb. But yeah.
I just watched that a couple of weeks ago again for the first time in a long time. It's so good. I mean, it's so like good. It's beautiful. Like the animation's amazing. It's hard to believe it's like 20 years old.
Gosh, honestly, I couldn't agree with you more. Princess Mononoke, that was a good one too. What's the other ones that are all of a sudden like not coming to mind? But Spirited Away is definitely a really good one. Now I'm gonna have to try and see how I can watch this Demon Slayer movie. I had no idea.
I bootlegged it online somewhere, so I did
not. It's
pay.
anime. You can always watch it for free online.
Yeah,
that's how anime works.
I was gonna check Crunchyroll, but you're right, bootleg.
That's true.
They might have it now. I know Netflix didn't. Yeah, I think Netflix had season 1 of Demon Slayer. They're not going to season 2 though. I think Crunchyroll. But didn't you see the? Didn't Crunchyroll buy Funimation or other way around for like one?
No. Sony bought Crunchyroll.
Yep.
Oh shit.
Right. Yeah. I forgot. I
I
never like read the press release, but my buddy told me, which is interesting. I never have had a Crunchyroll subscription, but I've always like been this close to pulling the trigger because it is nice to like have it all in easy access in one place and not have to like bootleg it and airplay it to it or like whatever. But it's I've never decided to pay for it.
Well, I mean, I think I don't pay for it either, but I have Funimation. And then so one of my coworkers, he's got Crunchyroll. So we just
swap.
You know,
nice.
Share.
That's great.
FBI. I don't actually do that. That's FBI agent. That's not what I do. I heard recently that Netflix was going to start trying to criminalize like shared logins. When you share a login, am I going crazy? Have you guys heard that too, or no?
For Netflix,
I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to crack down on it more.
Yeah, they're trying to because they can't go any higher with subscriptions, or their subscription numbers are hitting a wall, so they want to try to make it so you can't share passwords anymore, so their numbers go higher.
How many, like I know on mine, we have at least 3 profiles though.
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 different profiles. So
they might use IP addresses probably, or some kind of mix, I would assume, to try to limit that.
Yeah, for sure. We do the same thing. And I want to say it's a limit of like 3 viewers at one time, or 3 devices at one time too.
You run into it, yeah.
Yeah,
but if you just download everything, then they'll never know. Right.
That's one way around it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess we could start getting into the market stuff because there's a lot of things. A lot of things.
A little bit.
The hobby's interesting right now. A little bit. I actually impromptu hopped on the phone with Swami today, which was sweet. I don't know if you guys have ever seen any of his videos, but we were talking a little bit about it.
Oh, really? What'd y'all talk about?
He's great. We were talking about largely like the PSA backlog and grading and some of the like gem rates and stuff, because there's been some good videos that have been put out about PSA and their backlog and the percentage of 10s lately that have been graded. This guy I always forget his handle, but he has like really good YouTube videos, and largely they're around NBA card data, but he has a ton of data on the PSA, basically grading history, and he's been tracking them as well. And so it was interesting because I just pulled all the pop reports I pull monthly, and I was reviewing some stuff for a video I'm going to do this week. So we were just kind of talking about that, but it's funny because, I won't have to go too much down the rabbit hole, but the interesting thing is that the complete through dates for value TCG is sitting literally at October 5th, which is like the 2 days after the Logan Paul video, the first Logan Paul video. So we're at the precipice of all the cards that got sent in right after Logan Paul got back into the hobby. So the next 3 to 6 months of watching the PSA pop reports and watching cards that come back is going to get crazy interesting.
Yeah, that is going to be really, really interesting to see that data. And I've heard, even a few people like Charlie, I know, I can't remember when he told me when he put his sub in, but he's gotten subs back, which I'm sure are old subs, but got subs back. And the gem mitts, there weren't that many. There weren't as many. The people that you've been talking to, Connor, have they also kind of seen the same thing, or the content you've been taking in?
What the data has kind of shown, like roughly, if you extrapolate it across everything at PSA, is basically the rate of gem mint 10s is at about half of what it was before. So if 40% of submissions were getting 10s, now it's 20. And that's like kind of what he extrapolated over a very short-term time period from this data. But I think it's an interesting thought exercise, right? Like in this, I'll probably talk about some of this on the video this week, but like how much is a function of PSA becoming more strict with grading? How much is a function of people literally just sending in whatever they wanted to PSA, either just because, like Charizard's a great example, right? Like any first edition Charizard in any condition became valuable, right? It became worth grading, right? Among a myriad of other vintage and modern cards. So, you know, you can get a 7 in whatever first edition base holo and it still was worth grading, right? So how many people had all that backlog that they just decided to dump because it was not worth it? And then just the people that we know that are totally uneducated, right? That just said, hey, I have a shoebox of cards, here they go. And, you know, whether it was unlimited or first edition or fake cards, whatever, like they just sent it in. So, and then there's also the idea of like, over time, like there's only, you know, let's just make an easy number. Like, let's say 100,000 of a certain card in a set were ever printed, right? Like there might only be in existence, like from the 100,000 that were produced, like 10,000 that qualify as a 10. And then from there you go, what's been damaged, what's been lost, you know, then you kind of add in some that, you know, get some leniency, right? But there's only a finite number, right? So then the percentage could go down if the population just keeps going up from an overarching standpoint, because there are literally no, you know, more 10s out there to be graded, like potential 10s. So it's tough. It's tough to like, and then we don't even know what the other, you know, PS or CGC looks like, right? We don't know how many cards are there. So it's about to get so interesting. So I don't know what you guys think about that.
I mean, the market's already down usually in the winter anyways, into November, December. What's going to happen when those cards start coming on the market and people start panicking because they need to sell because they need to pay back all of their PSA subs? Because I'm guessing a lot of them didn't forecast that out. So that's what I'm banking on, is just people needing money and just having to offload, because there's no more raw bulk anymore that's worth buying. Even the stuff that I'm looking at now, like it's trash. Yeah, I mean, I found one. I'm trying to get the guy to sell it to me, but like these cards would be probably like 80 cents a piece, and it's probably 60% mint to near mint. But even, I mean, that's might be worth the risk. But I mean, I think just back to Connor's point, like I don't think there's a lot of 10s that are out there, and people. I think the junk slabs are going to be coming in now, going forward. Like this is where it got stupid, because all those articles came out middle of October, and then it got worse after everyone went home for the holidays for November, December, and then people are like just sending cards in, and just it's going to be, like you said, it's going to be interesting, because I don't know how people have planned out how they're going to pay for these subs.
They probably haven't, but if they're a business, they might have, right? Or they might have access to some leverage or credit or whatever, but it's hard because there's so many there's so many conflicting catalysts, right? Like you have 25th anniversary, you have the holidays, like the seasonality of the hobby, like all those things that are like pros. And then you have, you know, so that could say, hey, do we get another like slight boom into this like fall into winter? But then you also have people really made a bad mistake, and are a lot of them upside down on slabs. And it's like, well, maybe because it was so cheap to grade then that they might be okay. Like they still are going to need money, right? Like I've taken advantage of that already with CGC lots, like bought cards from people for 60 cents on the dollar because they needed money to cover their grading fees, right? Especially with Japanese, because they're just like, get it out the door, you know, Japanese holos. So it's really hard. There's a lot of like odd factors, and then the whole macro overlay, right? Whether or not, you know, the Delta variant picks up, or how people perceive it picking up, whatever, what happens with the world with that. And then just like the broader, you know, economic recovery worldwide as a whole. And then you also have like, what, you know, all the, you know, the unemployment benefits ending, the extended ones. You have people are going to need to start paying student loans and their, you know, rents again, and maybe pay their student loans, who knows. But so there's so many of these like conflating factors on like, it's such like comes down to like a personal level of liquidity needs. And it's like, we don't know how many people that sent cards, one, want to sell a lot of them? Two, how many of them were just like random individuals versus like larger businesses that are looking to just churn, right? And we don't know the character of the submissions that have been made, which is really tough to see, because I think a lot of those people probably sent to CGC later, in the year. But I think we're still in that period of a lot of people were just sending to PSA, in October, November.
Because that's what I did. I didn't send them in until, was it April, May? But I also sent in a dumb amount of cards. But it was also just a cheaper option at that time because of just how many cards I was sending. Because PSA would have been, I think, was it $15 a card? Around, I mean, 15 was the lowest, right? Or was it 20?
God, I can't remember now.
Trying to remember now. Yeah. Well, there were, before that, it was like somewhere between 8 and 12.
Yeah, like
right at one point, depending on the quarterly special or if you had vouchers or whatever.
They're giving them away at that point.
Yeah. It's weird because we were like, I felt like we were so hyper obsessed on the price changes, and then since PSA closed and CGC hasn't moved their prices since like whenever that was, February or March, like I've just kind of forgotten like the price history and just taken like it is what it is now.
They made that move in February, March, and then they made another move in, what was it, June? When was it? Because their website was a disaster when I was trying to do one of my last subs. I think, Jess, it took me like 12 hours to do one of yours because they just kept, because there was so many people putting cards in.
It was stupid.
That was before that, right? Stupid. That was May, right, Jess? That's when you were sent, because yours just got checked in, right?
Yeah, May was the one that I struggled with the most. That was the worst to get in. That was the worst to literally put in.
It was, I paid $7.65 per card. So
it's awesome.
I mean, it's not going to happen again, I don't think. Even with like specials or anything like that, I don't see a company being that cheap if they're not one of the big three. I mean, if they're like one of those newer ones, I can see them being cheaper. But even then, like, how do they stay afloat if they're going to be that cheap? They're not going to. Like all these new ones,
no doubt.
Like they're $20 minimum, and then they're kind of going up from there.
Yeah, I wonder, like, it's hard because we don't see like what their business looks like, right? Yeah. So if they're doing things at a much more rudimentary level, if they're using cheaper products and inputs, but also they're probably not able to purchase the raw materials for the stuff they need or anything like that at scale, like obviously a PSA is. They probably have really bad terms for all that stuff. Like, I can't imagine the economics are great. Have you guys looked more into Randolph's grading company that he launched? Because I know nothing about it at this point.
I haven't. Are you talking about, is he the gentleman that actually uses like a scanner? Doesn't he use some OCR technology and then zooms in? I can't remember. I'm thinking of a video that I saw in Gary's profile one time.
Oh, no, you're thinking of those guys that he invested with. No.
Those are the
okay.
Yeah, this is Randolph Pokemon, the dude from the UK who's he's also like a musician, like a rapper. But he started a grading company recently, to my understanding, but I never got around to looking into it.
I think that's smart over in Europe, especially with just shipping. Yeah. Like, there's nothing really over there that's defined, I don't think, right? There's not, I mean, they're all pretty much spaced in the States, and shipping is just an absolute nightmare coming from the UK. That's why I don't buy from Europe usually, because just how expensive it is. Not to mention the currency exchange. So, I mean, they don't really have many options over there, so I can see that being a viable. I'm kind of surprised PSA hasn't like tried to like buy one of those smaller ones just so they can have some kind of way to get their name overseas more, so they could start grading cards over there. But
well, I think Connor and what's his face from Graded Gem, I think they work with I always forget if they are working where the grading facility is for PSA that they use. But those guys, Graded Gem, at first was in the UK. And then Z from Z&G was also doing middlemaning for graded gem on the US side of their business, but their business started in the UK.
Yep.
I know there's a small facility, smaller, in Japan for grading, but grading cards in Japan is not really a big thing yet.
They don't care. And they sell them like they're graded still. So
yeah, they do sell them like they're graded. It's hilarious.
But isn't it because of like how they just like hold on to stuff better than a normal American does? They just keep their cards in better condition, and they're just better about. I mean, I'm sure a lot of those cards that are over there from like the early mid 1990s, I'm sure they're still in pristine condition or close to it, even if they aren't even graded yet, just because of how they keep their cards.
There could be people in Japan, like abandoned stores, or like, just random families who maybe had a store before, bought during the 90s, like who could have like boxes of like cases of like Bandai cards. Like we have no idea, like the ones that went in the vending, like not the peel sheets, but the actual vending cards. Like there could be, who knows how many of those could be over there in pristine condition. And then, I was thinking about this today. Like I miss, just because the raw market has been harder and because of grading costs and where we're at in the cycle, like I haven't been looking as much for raw cards, but I also haven't had as much time to do so. But I do miss like buying as much from Japan, because they always came very well packed, in very good condition, like with a lot of care behind it. And that was like always one of my favorite things about buying from Japan, is just I felt like they cared a lot about like the quality.
That's how the Canadians are too. I mean, just
Canadian Brad
here,
and Canadian
Brad,
James,
who I thought was sending me heroin when I got the packaging of how it was like. It was wrapped in trash bags, duct tape. It was in sleeves, but they were like, I don't know, he did it some sort of way. Sorry, just making you spit water. But like he had it like triple, like it looked like drugs. And that's what Nicole thought when I had drugs, when I ripped it out.
It really did. It took like
a lot. I got 600 cards from him. So it was a thick stack. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Oh my God.
Look, it took at least an hour just to like really unwrap everything, take everything out, take inventory. Okay, did I actually get everything? That was insane. Canada Bread came in clutch.
Looked like they had just came out of a pack. That's how nice they were, which was, I was still surprised that he was selling them for what he was selling them for, with how nice they were. Like they looked like they just were packed fresh. But he had opened them in 2012, I think he said. So they were like 8 or 9 years out of packs. So I don't know how he kept. I assume he just kept them.
That was insane.
I don't know how he kept them so nice.
I don't either. And honestly, like it'll be really interesting to see what those cards grade at between you and I, because I'm hoping if I get pristines, if I do, it would come from that. I don't know that I will, but
I'm thinking 9s, maybe some 9.5s if we're lucky. I mean, if we get pristines out of those, then I mean like 7 or 8 of those cards pay for all of the raws. So I mean, it would be nice, but CGC doesn't give out 10s, do they?
Yeah, you guys
only
know me.
If you're a pancake.
Of everything I sent in, I think out of like 175 to 200 cards, I pre-graded 2 of them as a 10.
I asked Pancake too, and I said, have you ever gotten vintage 10s? And I think he said he hasn't. They're only modern 10s that he's gotten them for.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm trying to think if I've ever seen a vintage 10 from CGC, either version of their 10, pristine or perfect. I think I've only seen modern, but
I mean, that's going to be close to like a black label for people.
Oh no, I've seen one. I've seen one Japanese one.
Okay,
it was a poly. Is it the Polyrath from, I think it's a Neo Discovery Hollow, maybe? I can like see it in my mind's eye. But someone I know who's a seller from Hawaii who has a ton of Japanese, he got a 10, a pristine 10. It wasn't a perfect 10. And that's the only vintage one I've ever seen. it's so interesting. I think there's a lot of opportunity there still to, like, you know, more from just I mean, it's an arbitrage opportunity basically, right? Where if you want to churn, you know, and you can buy really good cards in CGC slabs that look like they might be able to be a PSA 10 someday. But the biggest risk there, other than just the hobby risk, is the fact that you don't know what you're going to have to pay to regrade that.
That's true.
You might, I mean, at this point, I won't even bother regrading because I think I'm also betting on CGC, but.
Right. You're making that. Yeah. Which is, I mean, the market's going to tell us, right? Like, we're going to find out.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be really interesting to see because, you know, with the increase in prices, and we've talked about this before, the debate, is there going to be a new floor for graded cards? Some say yes, and I can understand why they do, because sellers want to cover their cost basis. But at the same time, will there be enough demand for those prices? And I mean, we've already been seeing a wane in the market. You know, I think eBay's most recent quarterly report said that their active buyer base dropped by 2%. Granted, that's probably not due to Pokemon and all these other factors, but I mean, you can't command prices if you don't have the demand for the prices and the item.
I think with that too, with eBay, is they're not the only show in town anymore. I think WhatsApp is gonna.
That's true.
WhatsApp is coming for their market share, especially with, like, they just can't offer the same kind of stuff that WhatsApp does. And I guess, I mean, Gather same kind of.
Do you mean Whatnot?
You mean Whatnot?
What's that? Whatnot. Yeah. Whatnot. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Whatnot. That's the thing. They also can't compete with WhatsApp, but Whatnot. I mean, it's just a unique product that I don't think eBay. I mean, eBay might try to get into that kind of live auction thing, but
I think eBay is trying to diversify their business in a myriad of ways, right? We're seeing them dabble a little bit in content. We're seeing them dab more in the commercial lending on, like, the high end, you know, watch market, for example. So they're figuring out different ways to make money and try to adapt. But I do think the way things are trending is more that experiential marketplace, like what Whatnot started to establish. It's just way more fun, right? You know, the hard part is, like, I know I can go and buy something for X on eBay pretty much, you know, by and large at any time if it's fairly common. But on Whatnot, it's always going to depend on, you know, are they doing a raffle with, you know, for the top bidder in this thing? And it's brilliant for sellers. Oh my gosh. I mean, you can sell $100 slab for $200 just because someone's trying to be the highest bidder. Like, it's brilliant. But back to the original debate, I have, I think, come to the firm conclusion that there is no such floor anywhere for anything, for a variety of reasons, right? I think, you know, one, first and foremost, is there's this weird lag between how many people graded, you know, cards for $8 and the card maybe cost them 50 cents. And so they're more than willing to sell, you know, if they're a business. Yeah. But like, even you, like, you have volume, right? Like, if you could sell all of those cards for $20 or $25 and the, you know, PSA's lowest grading fee is $50, like, you don't care that that's $50. Like, you're making a double or a triple on your money and you're just running that churn. Like, that's how a business works. Like, that's where the money's going to be made in this hobby going forward, is on, like, those low cost, higher volume, like, transactions, I think. And then, like, in a longer term perspective, some, like, you know, unique investment pieces. But anyway, right. Like, the fact that there's such, like, a large amount of low cost basis slabs that people are going to be willing to let go of for, you know, pretty low prices, I think, because as a business, you don't need to hit home runs. You just need to hit a bunch of singles. And it'll be interesting to see, like, it's kind of like what I alluded to before. I don't know how much of the market or how much of the backlog at PSA, for example, is cards that were submitted by, like, for gosh sakes, like the guy, like Dan and Travis. Like, I know they use CGC largely, but like the volume that they submit to run a business, like that's why they'll sell me a first edition CGC 9 or whatever for $15, because their cost basis is like $4. That's awesome for them, you know? So how long does it take for all those low basis cards to flush out and for there to be some like reset of, you know, there's only cards entering the market that have, you know, $25 grading fees associated with them? And the answer is probably never, because the market doesn't really work like that and the volume's too great. So that's, you know, part of my take.
And honestly, like, to double down on what you're saying with what Dan and Travis are doing, I mean, I remember one of the first conversations I had them on. They literally, they told me they never keep money in the bank. They're always just putting it back in terms of cards, sending them out to be graded, you know, not leaving money in the bank just because they know that in order for them to make money, volume, did he get on base? Like, that reminds you of that one movie with what's his face. You know, they're always about just getting on base. And like the other cool thing with Whatnot, which I haven't been paying too much attention to their auction prices, but I love how that app also has like virality built into it, you know, like, in order to increase users, you want to, you know, have a micro influencer strategy or an influencer strategy, right? Mm-hmm. Well, if you have them, like, they have their own flywheel, kind of like Amazon. The more auctioneers you have on there that have influence, the more users you have on there to bid and buy things. And then so the more people you have buying things, the more people you have selling things. And it's just this circle where it's just freaking awesome. I haven't used their app.
They're the ones who are going to be the, like, an example of the winners in all of this. Anyone who is part of the transactional nature of collectibles and is just getting a cut of every buy and sell, those are the smartest people in the room, right? It's like the same as like the crypto market, right? Like the Coinbases of the world are the people who are going to be the winners, you know, in the
that
end,
actually make the money.
That actually make the money. Yeah, because it doesn't matter if the trade was a winner or a loss, they still get their cut, right?
They get bigger fees, though. Yeah, they don't care.
Yeah.
They can enter into any market and still come out profitable in the end. It's great.
The cool thing about Whatnot is that, like, they're, to your exact point, like, they're able to partner with social media influencers, right? Like, they've done these weekly breaks, you know, where they do a succession of breaks with different, you know, PokeTubers or whatever. Like, I would love to know how many users they added after Super Duper Danny opened that error box.
Like, oh yeah.
That must have, like, because that went so viral. At least in ours, like, for Pokemon.
I mean, just look at the Slabathon. The Slabathon they did in June too. That was that huge thing.
Yeah. Plus all the stuff that, like, I don't know, for me, like, I don't give a shit about, like, there's, you know, gosh, there's vintage clothing on there, which is like kind of cool, like, sometimes, like, depending, and there's like Funkos, which I hate, but like they're there. Like, obviously there's all the sports guys, like, there are, you know, there's, I mean, stuff I do like vintage video game stuff. Like, there is a huge and diverse marketplace on there, across not just hobbies, but like just things people like, stuff you would go on Mercari to buy, you know what I mean? Right. So, that business is super interesting. They could, you know, I think they have a lot of improvement to make, but they have a lot of opportunity, and they were pretty much the first mover, at least in the US.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have first mover advantage, though sometimes it's a disadvantage to be a first mover too, because all of your you know,
they expose
vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so someone can just swoop in and do it. So, I mean, but it's cool. It's really interesting to see. Like this is what I was thinking about the other day, because at first when Pokemon first came out, we were kids, we were young, we didn't know what the hell was going on. But as adults now, when we can kind of like look back on the market of Pokemon and to see where it could go, right? Because, I've been taking in a lot of Harry Rinker content and reserve investment content. And that's been really interesting because we've had these conversations before, but used like different terminology. And now that I've been exposed to more of this like content from the collectibles and the antiques, like specifically like dudes that have been in it for longer than we've been alive, it's been really interesting because they have all the fundamentals to it, right? So we're like in the second stage. Pokemon is in like the second stage of the life cycle of a collectible. And so now at this point, it can either grow into maybe the third stage. So it might
reserved investment. It's like I forget whose philosophy that is, but it's like 25 or 30 years, right?
Yep.
Establish
it's all Harry Rinker.
Yeah, Harry Rinker, right.
Yeah. I mean, and so that's so cool because now Pokemon is at that point where it will either start to mature into a stable market potentially, or it might turn into like a dying market where we won't have another generation of people coming back into it to kind of continue to keep that market going. Because I mean, when you think of markets like, historic documents, rare books, coins, ancient weapons, straight blade, whatever the crap, whatever, all that business, right? Those are considered in Harry Rinker's eyes, stable, mature markets. Those are markets you can jump into at any time and most likely get an ROI over the years if you hang on to them long term, right? Which is all the things that we want to do with Pokemon. But it'll take a long time still to see whether or not Pokemon actually turns into a mature market. But it's cool because we're adults now and we can watch it on the ground floor and make our choices. And honestly, like, I think Pokemon has a really good chance of maturing into a stable market because it's a huge brand compared to MetaZoo, which we can get into a conversation about MetaZoo and Fortnite at some point. But I mean, what's kind of nice though is like, I thought for a while I was going to keep all my Pokemon stuff. I was going to keep it all super long term and see like a 10x, some stupid, right? But now I'm getting to the point where it's like, okay, I think there are some things that will do really well over the long term. But if there are things that I don't really care too much about, like in my personal collection that I don't really care too much about, but if I can 2 or 3 or 4x, that's probably, even if it's a short-term move, that's probably a good move because we're not going to see everything appreciate how we would want it to. So I'm here to just take my paper gains for those and roll it into something else.
That's what you have to remember in like a mature collectibles or antique market, that a lot of those are like the general majority of any given kind of asset is probably going to be something that's more of a store of value than anything else. And the higher end of the market's usually where either the higher end, which usually includes the things that are the most rare and unique, right? Whether condition, absolute, or both rarity. Those are the things where, you could see some sort of significant appreciation, largely due to a little bit of time and people coming into the space and understanding it a little better, right? But it's like the large majority ends up just being kind of more of a store of value play. We're in the weird part of Pokemon where a bunch of this stuff is going to be not even close to a store of value. It's going to be a loss for most people, honestly, or at the very best, completely like dead money. but probably a loss, honestly.
Probably
but
a
if you
loss.
like, and that's the hard part, right? Is like, it's like, have you bought it and collected it just because you want to collect it? And like, at the end of the day, like, people have collected things for a millennia because they enjoyed doing so, because we're creatures who, for some reason, like, or at least some of us, like this idea of like collecting things and having, stuff to display or show off to our friends or enjoy visually or whatever it is, like it, satisfy some sort of OCD tendency, whatever. And then, at that point, it's just like a purchase, right? But it's, no, I think you're right, is that the IP is so large. And I think for, barring some like major screw up, I think within our lifetimes, we will probably see Pokemon continue, at least for the large part. I think we've got a good 1 to 2 more generations, like as long as they don't screw something up. But I think at the very least, like the hobby will be around for decades and decades to come. That's my hope, as long as the IP continues to kind of touch as many different facets of the world as it has, right? Because there's so many outlets for it, right? Like people who play Pokemon Go who don't even know what, Evolving Skies is, right? You know what I mean? So that's one of the cool things about it, is it has a lot more going for it from a survivability, maturing, a potential to mature standpoint because of that. That doesn't mean cards will do the best, but it does mean that the hobby of, or I guess the better word is the popularity of Pokemon will stick around. So I guess maybe I want to caveat what I said before. The popularity of Pokemon is probably here to stay around for a longer duration, right? Like this IP should survive for many decades to come, but we don't know what will happen to the card specific side of it. It's impossible to know, right? Cards are having a heyday, right? A resurgence, but we don't know what that looks like, how NFTs come into play, what people are going to collect in 20 years, how they're going to collect. They're going to want all this physical stuff. Or if there's just Armageddon, we just have to use it all as firewood and tinder. So who knows?
If you want to burn
That's
plastic.
always a possibility. Well, it's really interesting too, because if people are strictly thinking about collecting cards from an investment perspective, if ultimately at the end of the day, you want to trust like the jockey, like if you're investing in the jockey of a business, like a startup, right? The idea is okay, the market's okay, all those things are there, but probably the most important factor is the person that's leading the ship, right? I mean, to your point, you have to trust that the jockey is going to keep the IP big, which is why I'm so hesitant with MetaZoo, because there's so many things that can happen before it even gets to a point similar to Pokemon, right? It's only in year one.
It's just never going to happen. I mean, it's like,
it's
basically an impossibility for that to occur.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost a statistical impossibility, I think, just because there's no, unless
they turned into a media. Yeah, I mean, unless they turned into a media company, that's the only thing. Because I agree with you, it's an impossibility unless they think of themselves as an IP, a media IP. But there is so much that needs to be done. You're betting on the jockey. Like if you're into MetaZoo and you think that they'll go, you're trusting that whomever is holding, at the helm can grow it like that.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that here's the thing, it's a card game first, and it's a card game that's based off of like what I would call like historical fantasy, I guess you want to call it. It's not like their own media to create this universe, because it kind of like is fine, like it exists, right? It from a like what they're basing it on, right? And I just don't. Pokemon was always so much more, right? Like all these other, like there's so many other like IPs
touch points
that like come first, like stuff that's been around for 5 years or a decade. Like, I mean, even like Fortnite's got a way better chance of like ever being anything like that endures than like something like a MetaZoo does. Like, I see MetaZoo the same way I see like that Gate Ruler trading card game. Like, some people are going to really like it, some people aren't. It's a trading card game. It's a collectible card game. Maybe people will play it. They also have major supply constraints and about 25 employees to pump out whatever it is, 25,000 boxes or whatever. So good luck.
Yeah, I mean, it almost seems like MetaZoo is built as like an investment tool already. Like it's not really. Pokemon was built as like a card game that's part of a different part of a bigger IP, but MetaZoo just doesn't. I mean, it doesn't. I don't even know how it survives the next 5 years because it's the scare. Like there's not a lot of supply already. I don't know how it's going to improve, and if you improve the supply, what's going to happen with the card values? Like people aren't going to want to do something or have that experience with their children if they got burnt when they tried buying into it. Like I don't even know if you can play the game right now because there's just not enough cards out there.
And like, I'm not a hater of like people should collect like what they want to, right? If people like it, like I have local friends who have opened it and like, they're pretty objective about it. I know Catch a Craze is going to put out like some kind of pros and cons video about it that he did. Cause he's been able to open some and he's pretty objective about it. And like, at the end of the day, like, look, if people like it and a handful of people continue to enjoy it, God bless them. I think just objectively, it's not going to become some monster. And I don't know if they think they want it to, or if they need it to, right? Like, I kind of think it about like, if you own a business, like you can go two routes, right? You can try to continually grow that business no matter what. Like, even if you're super successful, you just always want to grow, or you run it as like a lifestyle practice, like just running it for cash flow, letting it just exist. And if you have a decent margin, you're making a good living off of, you know, whatever product or service you're providing. And I can see them doing the latter, like just existing in a space where they do decent sales and people kind of like it. And but more than likely it becomes 10 years from now, it's like people have some of these sealed boxes and they're like, oh, remember that weird thing that came out during the pandemic that got super hyped? Like, and it'll be like, I've heard people put it this way, like it'll just be an oddity, right? That's why
an interesting way to put it. Yeah.
I'd wanted to have it to remember 2020 and 2021, like remember what happened here. You know, I would think about it a lot if I had that and I was looking at it.
I mean, I was literally having this conversation with Jeff off the Discord. We were talking about it, and like, I definitely agree. I think people should buy whatever they want, right? If they want to spend $1,000 on a MetaZoo box, that's on them. Do I think that price will hold? I mean, I don't know. Only time will tell. I don't think it will. But I mean, if you bought it at a good price that's reasonable for you, that doesn't put you, you know, in the poorhouse, and you want to play the game, I mean, like we'll see how that goes. What's not clear to me is, and I've watched a few of Rudy from Alpha Investments videos on MetaZoo because he believes in the product. He likes the product. He thinks it's cool.
He's one of the reasons the prices are the way they are. Him and the other group of influencers who are, you know, supporting it is like not saying it's malicious, but just saying like it is
just talking about
that's the world we live in. Like it's just a function of social media momentum. But I'm sorry, continue.
No,
he's talked about it a lot.
No, you know, he has done a lot of talking about it. And I mean, I think if you can get the product, like I kind of feel like you have to sort of taste it. Like I try to taste stuff if I can. So if I could get MetaZoo at a reasonable MSRP price, I mean, I would definitely buy it just to try it. Maybe open up a box, see what it is, hang on to another box just to see what it does in the long term. I mean, that's something really interesting. But just some of these prices, gosh, it kind of reminded me a little bit of Fortnite when Fortnite was really booming with prices. There's not a problem with things going up in price. It just seems a little too soon for these hobbies. Like, Fortnite cards is only 2 years old. MetaZoo cards is only 1 year old. I mean, you know, it's just a little soon. And I think part of it is, you know, a lot of people wanting to get in on the ground floor of something. Because if they got in on the ground floor of Pokemon and they held on to those boxes 10, 20, 30 years later, here's where we are. You know, we're looking at hundreds of thousands for a first edition booster box, right? I mean, I think probably a lot of people have that in mind as well. But what's not quite clear to me, and I think it's probably important for the long term, is how many people are buying and are actual players. Because I think that's important, you know, because then they bring more people on board with them and then they share it with their kids in the future. I don't know. That's not quite clear to me. I haven't really had anyone really comment on that specifically because a lot of people are in it to invest in, and that's fine. And we've had this conversation before, Connor, where demand is demand, right? But I think for long term of a hobby like this, I think it is, I mean, you know, disagree with me completely. It's okay. But, you know, I think for me to feel more confident in that hobby potentially growing and expanding into other mediums or other things, I kind of feel like they you know, the player base needs to engage from that perspective. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think either a player base or a real collector's base, right? Or a mix of the two, not just people speccing on something, right? Not just people who are involved in other hobbies who are just speccing on something, right? Because when you think about, like, there will probably be, so let's take like the last decade. There might be 1 or 0 things that come out of that decade that have the series of events that lead to them being Pokemon-esque 25 years from now, right? Or 15 years from now. Like, create a massive media brand, have a massive, you know, resurgence, right, after a long lull period, have a Black Swan event that caters to their, you know, type of product that they, you know, push, right? And the world's changing pretty rapidly, right? So who knows where cards, you know, for example, will be 25 years from now. But I think the hard part that people don't, this is what I think about a lot, okay? And I know I say that sometimes, but I think about a lot of things a lot. We're living in a time where people in our age demographic have gotten used to making money, in a good amount of money, in a very fast period of time, right? So a very compressed return period, whether it's been digital assets or even traditional stock, you know, when I say digital assets, I mean Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever, traditional stocks, Pokemon cards, sports cards. Like, people who don't have a historical context for how all these markets work think that this is something that's like easy and highly replicable over time. And the fact of the matter is, it could have been anything. If Logan Paul came out and said, I just bought like the world's biggest collection of Pogs, then this all could have been Pogs, and all this stuff behind me could still be worth what it was in 2016 or 2018 or 2019. And we could all be talking about freaking Pogs right now, right? And it just comes down to the fact that people are trying to use, they're using the item to generate cash flow. And it could have been anything that fell into that Black Swan event. And, you know, obviously, like, there are tailwinds for something like Pokemon with such a massive media brand. But let's say it was, you know, something very close, right? Like, I don't know, some like Hello Kitty collectibles, right? Like, because that's like the second biggest IP in the world, right? After Pokemon, are pretty close. Like,
yeah, Samrail, yeah.
It could have been anything, not anything, but anything with a fairly substantial media brand around it, right? Like it could have been Marvel, like at scale, right? Or something like, like obviously that got hyped, but it could have been the core, like that could have been the thing, right? It didn't have to be Pokemon. And now people are just trying to use anything to make money quickly, right? And they're just using social momentum to do that. And it just happens to be Pokemon right now. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, again, I always come back to the fact that it's like, most of it's uninvestable, right?
I mean, yeah, look at Modern. Look at what happened to Vivid Voltage in like 6 weeks. Like, House of Cards fell down. I think Pokemon also has different markets too. People forget about, like, you have the vintage, you have the Japanese vintage. Like, there's different markets within that market too that people I think they just look at as like one market, and they don't kind of focus on the different, like the Charizard card that you posted today that sold for, was it 600,000? Or is that the price of
500,000? Yeah.
And would that be, was that the highest, or was there a higher one than that? I think that's going to be the highest, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I should know this like immediately, but I can't remember. I thought it was higher than that. I thought it was like 517 or something.
Not 6.
Let's see, because Logic got his at. I try to look at the benchmarks. It's somewhere in the ballpark, right? We all know it's like around the ballpark. That 500K mark's like pretty close. Gosh, what a bad 10, by the way. I've seen worse ones, but that was not a good 10.
I was going to ask you how it was, because I had only seen the front, but like that's a thing too. Like those early 10s, like a lot of them are early 10s. Oh boy. Yeah, that's very early.
It's crazy old.
That's
probably like a around 2000, like year 2000 graded card. Who knows?
Has there been? So this is a side talk. Has there been talk about how the cases could be damaging these cards? So they could have graded it as 10, but then once they sit in the case for 20 years and they shift around, do you think that might be having, maybe it was a 10, but after sitting in that case for 20 years, it could be like an 8 or a 9?
I'm curious, because I've only owned a Japanese card with that old of a cert, but Japanese cards were always known to move around more in the cases. So I don't know. I've never had that old of a card from PSA to know if like the standard like English first edition cards move around in there. But I can tell you that the case looks like it went through a meat grinder. It looks like it is like trashed. If you look at the pictures, like I saw the back and I was like, that can't be on the card because this is a 10. It has to be the case. And it was bad. It was really bad.
You know, I have to dig up the video, but there's a YouTube video of a guy testing out CGC cases. And I can't remember if it was one of the early CGC cases or the more recent ones, because I have an older one that it did move around a lot. But he literally, like, he shook it physically and did comparisons and then made a machine that shook it. And there was no change.
Yeah, it was, what's his face? It was
yeah.
Oh, I can't think his name. I don't know. He's
an older vid.
He's a like a online marketing social media kind of like guru.
Pat Flynn.
Yeah,
is that
Pat Flynn.
Pat Flynn. Yeah.
He's like an OG like internet marketing guy. Created he was like studying for like I forget if it was the bar or like what the hell it was. And then he like created this online like course website for people. Like he wrote like a study guidebook or something. And then he got into like social media marketing and all this. He's been very successful, very good at what he does, but he also like loves Pokemon. So then he like started to get into Pokemon. But honestly, I've started forgetting like what these people's histories are because I just don't consume their content as much, if anything at all. Like even like I can't even watch like Leonhardt. Like I just can't. Like I'm just like, I don't like your expressions and your reactions are just annoying me. I don't even know. Like you get so depressed when he pulls something that's like not a good card. Like it's just like, it's super weird. I don't know. So I always, I tend to like forget all these like back histories. I can't keep all this stuff in my head about these content creators. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that old case works.
I might have to talk to Eric and Charlie next weekend because there's going to be some real old head collectors at the Florida show that I'm going to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll have to talk to them. That'll be really interesting because I literally thought that, okay, shaking the card affected, like shaking the case affected the card. Like surely, right? Surely it would. But for the CGC, it didn't. So, I don't want to just assume, by proximity, it's the same for PSA. But that'd be really interesting. But I mean, those recent charts, though, Zards that we were talking about a few weeks ago that went through auction, those were really trash looking. Those were really, really bad 10s.
I forget how much. I'm still trying to remember what the record high was, and I feel like I feel like it was like 400, but I can't remember. But those ones went for like, it was like high 2s, low 3s. I'm trying to remember.
Wasn't the record high like a gray stamp too? Wasn't it like a gray stamp, and that's why it was so, or like some kind of weird stamp too? That's why I went for so high.
I just can't remember. Honestly, it's like those things I should remember. Like, what am I, even a Pokemon content creator? Gosh, guys, I don't even remember what the highest Charizard price was, but thought it was like 400-ish. But I always can't remember like which ones got paid for either. Like which ones actually got confirmed. It was cool that PWCC messaged me today though, and they told me that it was an actual sale. Because when I first saw that sale, I thought it was just like a weird eBay thing. Like just because sometimes their stuff just glitches and they like it shows sales that never happened or like canceled orders. And they said it had been purchased but not yet paid for, which I still don't understand because I think that came from the vault. So like, did the person not click purchase? Like, is there some different like system of payment that I'm not privy to because I've never bought a $400,000 card on eBay? Like, do they get to like contact PWCC directly and like work it out? Like, I don't know what happens there.
I think so. They have to because they have to wire that money, wouldn't they?
I would not expect you would be putting that on your credit card, but hey, at that level of wealth, I mean, you could have a black Amex and just put it on there. There's no limit. Like you theoretically could. It's a hell of a lot of Amex points.
Yeah,
Imagine doing that.
Oh my gosh. My God. I'm still blown away with what Anna Pogagal told me when I had her on a few weeks ago, because she talked to Dan. Because I was like, yo, you need to have Dan and Travis on your podcast. And Dan told her that they hadn't been paid on $80,000 worth of listings from PWCC, I think it was.
Oh yeah, I remember her saying that.
Ugh.
Yeah,
which is insane to me because I'm thinking, okay, either they were selling some really nice cards or, just by volume. But that's something that like I've been trying to figure out. Because doing those market roundups, like it is hard to really verify. I mean, I've got PWCC pulled up right now for Pokemon cards, right? I've got it listed down for completed auctions, highest bid first, right? But and I mean, these are older ones. So like the illustrator that went in February. That one went for $375.
$275, yeah.
Right. But these other ones, like what can I trust? What can't I trust? And I'm assuming that if it's still on there, that they paid for it, right? That's what I'm assuming. But trust but verify.
Yeah.
like I don't want to put information out there that I can't actually, say with full confidence, like this is the thing. So I've been trying to figure that out still. Like how does PwC
if they scrub their data or how that works. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I know I've had, like, I've sold a card that then, like, for some reason it couldn't ship to the buyer's country. So we canceled the order, but it still sat on like the sold listings. Like when I look up that card, but I haven't like looked it up in a while. So I don't know if it's stays on eBay for that, whatever, that 90-day history and then falls off, or if it gets eliminated when they realize it wasn't paid for. Like, I don't know, but that data is messy. The data is super messy.
Yeah. So. It's definitely going to stay messy unless we put everything on blockchain, which is still something I'm trying to get figured out. But I agree with you. I don't know. Part of me kind of feels like even though that particular instance wasn't paid for, it would have still been paid for had you been able to ship that. So it's kind of like, well, so someone was willing to or was trying to pay at that price point. Would we consider that valid? I kind of say
right. Yeah.
Halfish, it's not like really true, right? That's what I'm saying. So I don't know. I've been having it's been a while since I've really had some deep thoughts on it. But when it comes to the app and when it comes to data validation from the API, that's going to be really hard because, like shill bidding, see it all the time. Like the other day, I literally saw a lot for like 14 cards, base set unlimited, basic shit, no hollows. And that apparently sold for over 2,000 or for 2,000, something like that. And I'm like, come on, people. Like, this is stupid. This is obviously stupid.
It's just going to get even harder too. And between for people who are educated, especially on the higher end, with the 1099K changes, people are already disenfranchised by selling on eBay, right? The more now that we get these in-person sales or Instagram deals or whatever, there's going to be so much price history that we lose on a lot of I would say the higher end or the more significant cards in the hobby as more trades start to, people love trading. Trading's fantastic, right? So I think that it's gonna be hard to kind of keep track, right? Because people have we've all gotten so spoiled by the volume of transactional data that we have at our fingertips now. Like we can look up, okay, hey, I forgot the Charizard sold for 400K at Golden Auctions in March, right? And I think that was the record one, if I remember. Whatever. It's not always gonna be like that. Whether it's cards going into forever hands and them only selling every few years, maybe more rare stuff, or
those just trophy
the
cards.
Amount of trophy cards, or the amount of volume that ends up happening offline, in person. We're not going to have as much access to that data, so it's going to be kind of more important than ever to understand directionally where values are going, but also I personally think, and I know it's hard because it's one of the only ways to look at it, but people rely too much on comps. Just because something sold for something or has been trending in a certain direction is not a necessary indicator for the true value of that item. It just haven't, we all know this, right? But people will just be like, well, one just sold for $200 and yours is listed for $300. And I'm like, well, because that's actually probably what it's worth. And one random auction on one random day is not indicative of an entire market for a certain card. And in the same way, just because a bunch of Hidden Fates Charizards are selling, or Evo Charizards are selling for whatever, and now there's 14,000 of them. Like, it's crazy to me how these modern cards sell for more than vintage like gem mints or nines, and there's 100 times as many of them for some of these cards. It just makes no sense to me.
It's FOMO. People are afraid they're going to miss out on it, and they want to get it, so they'll pay stupid prices.
And we see that, like, it's hilarious because like the same thing happens, right? Like the first like whatever alt art from EV Heroes gets graded and sells for like $3,000, and then the next week another one sells for 1,500, and I'm like, you guys know we keep doing this every time, right? Like, definition of insanity, doing something over and over again and expecting a different result. Like, it's just, human psychology is so fascinating to me, especially when it comes to emotional hobbies and how that plays out into markets. Like, investor psychology or buyer psychology is just so fascinating. And maybe what it just really means is that people are not as smart as we want to think they are, but emotions are hard to mitigate, right? When you're making buying decisions on stuff that you really want or feel.
It's like
that's a true skill.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's hard to do. And that's why I haven't been looking at the market right now, because everything's down from what I used to buy it for, but I know it's not the real price it should be at. So that's why I just haven't even looked at cards until like recently, because of just how there's just, I mean, so for eBay, like when we were in like the middle of COVID, from September to like March, like that was all the transactions. So like you did kind of have that comp data, so you could see what was going on. I mean, now like it's a free for all. Like you have no idea where prices should be, where they actually are. And then you have the looming, I guess, cliff of graded cards that are going to be coming. Like, is there even a point in buying a lot of this stuff right now? It's almost like you're better off just sitting and waiting on the sidelines until everything kind of settles out. And that's kind of where I am at this point, just because it's just hard to buy right now, because there's not really a lot of good data, really, like you've been saying. It's kind of all over the place, and it's hard to get a good read on what things actually are worth, because
it's funny because by and large, you would probably characterize what's happening in the market as like setting a bottom, right? Like, you can't call the bottom, and we're talking about the broad market, but like we've seen a lot of things reach a level of stability or even start to rebound and trend back in the other direction, which is really interesting, at least in like the slab world and some of the vintage sealed market. And I'd say kind of broadly as a whole, we're reaching a more like stable area. But I think a lot of that, to your point, is like there's a lot of uncertainty, especially because we're in literally the lowest volume seasonal period for like eBay or collectible transactions, like the summer, especially like August into the beginning of September, worst time to be a seller, like least amount of transactional volume. Like, it's just how it works. There's no holidays coming up. People are doing a lot of other things. Like, it's just super sleepy time of the year, right? And then you get the same thing where you hype up into the holidays and then all that, blah, 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 right? All this stuff seasonal. And it's funny because there's like a lot of people who like 6 months ago were dying to buy things at prices 1.5 times where things sit today. But now there has been a lot of uncertainty introduced for people because they thought, trees were going to grow to the sky. Right. And then, I think for us is more like, as both collectors and people who try to like, might try to make some money in certain places in this hobby, like as a collector, I think it's just like continuing to be a real collector. And what comes with that is being uber specific on what your goals are and not like being greedy, right? So buying very selectively, like whether it means like, hey, I want this set or I want this grail item, like being very honed in on what's going on there. Like I know I've been super patient for 1 or 2 items I've wanted, you know, kind of 1 to 3 items I've wanted. I've pulled the trigger on 1. There's another 2 that could take a long time. But I don't necessarily think, I think it's like a good time to be both a buyer and a seller right now. Like just from like where the market sits. Like it's like as just like whatever, like you just want to buy a slab or you just want to like sell a slab, like, you know, it's just kind of like, an okay time for everyone. And we don't know what's going to happen in the short term, right? Prognosticating on short-term price movements is usually a fool's errand. But at the end of the day, it's certainly in a place where, you know, it's more attractive to buy than it was last November and last January. That's for sure, right? Because we kind of saw that like double peak there. But there is a lot of uncertainty that's been introduced. And I don't think people understand how liquid this stuff is. And when they need money, they're not going to be able to get it easily.
I think we're going to find that out though. I think we're going to find that out though the next 4 to 6 months. I think they're going to have to realize that they're not going to have a choice. They're going to have to learn it.
Yeah. All of a sudden they, you know, they don't have unemployment benefits or extended ones. They might be working again. You know, childcare is astronomically expensive, right? So even if kids are back in school, there's still always some factor there if you're working again or working more. You know, all the things we talked about with, you know, if they have to start paying student loans again, if there's, you know, different things with mortgage payments or rent moratoriums or blah, 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 foreclosures, all these things. Like if you have to come up with money to pay, you know, to put food on the table for your kid, you know, the first thing to go are, you know,
the luxury
stuff
goods.
like this, the luxury stuff. Yeah. The superfluous stuff. And then you really find out that, oh crap, there might be a lot of this out there. And that's when the undercutting starts. And you're going to continue to get this, you know, I think bifurcation of the market where you've got kind of the part that's there's way too much supply, right? And it's always kind of been that way. And then all of a sudden there's going to be way too much of it on the market. And then you're going to have the other side where there's still stuff that's super rare that people are pursuing on the higher end that stabilizes or grows or, you know, continues to set all-time highs. Like it's kind of the same as like, and I never like to make this
here it comes
comparison, but it's like good companies and bad companies in the stock market, right? Like it's in why I make that analogy is because like it's like what's going on under the hood, right? Like if last year we saw like, you know, 400 and it wasn't that, it was like 390 or something companies in the S&P 500 like underperformed the market. I think it might have been more drastic than that. Whatever. I forget the stats. No one wants to talk about finance right now. But what I'm saying is there can be a small concentrated portion of items in the hobby that continue to trend upward and move like the market upward. But there can be 90% of it that's just hot garbage and underperforming, right? So you've got inflation as your baseline. You've got like 1% of the market that like does a high volume of growth above that. And those are like the high end, high dollar items. And then you've got all the stuff below that's super common that underperforms or has negative performance. Like we could see that unwind in a big way. But that doesn't mean the overall trend of the market isn't going upward, but under the hood, there can be a lot of pain for a lot of people.
Oh, exactly.
That is so true. I mean, we've had this conversation, there's always someone left holding the bag. But what's also really interesting too, that you've like alluded to a number of times, going back to like the human psychology of it, which is really interesting. But Rudy from Alpha Investments just recently talked about this. And I agree with him, because I think at one point I was this person. There's always going to be people in the market that are going to buy high because they feel really good. Because it's high, they feel really good, they feel really confident about it, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to buy high. And this is on anything. This is on anything, right? And then those same people, when there is that uncertainty, like right now, because I've had conversations with people before on this, they're like, I'm not too sure about Pokemon, da-da-da-da-da. Like what they should be doing is they should probably be buying right now, right? Because this is where you can mitigate your risk by managing your entry point a little bit better, versus when there's a lot of, buying going on, like what we saw last year with those huge ass spikes. So, I mean, there's always going to be people in the market, and it's probably FOMO wrapped into it, but just people that aren't going to feel good unless they spend a lot of money for a thing.
I mean, that's a tricky area too, because you don't want people just to buy because they want to average down their investment. That's what I've heard a lot of, like, the people. I mean, that's the scary thing. Like, do you buy now because there's hesitation in the market, or is the hesitation not as bad as it should be because of? I mean, it also is because of those slabs that are coming. That's also why I wouldn't touch a lot of this stuff, because of just there's no, the uncertainty of like how much is actually coming on the market is a huge issue.
Huge.
And
I think people also too just like don't have liquidity.
No,
like they spent themselves out, right?
I have liquidity, but I won't spend it.
But yeah, this is true. But you were also like a little, like, I don't know, we're a little more rational, I think, than the average person.
That's also true. But I mean, like, it's just, I mean, I think that's people, they just didn't plan it out well. They just saw the opportunity to make money because so many people were making money off of it. And now it's just, I mean, even sports cards right now are getting absolutely hammered. I think there was one, I can't remember who it was. They were talking about Giannis rookie cards. They were going for $4,000 in January last year. He won an NBA title. They're just around, I think, $2,000 right now. So people even that made that bet that he was going to be a good player and he was going to win, they're still drowning in it. So there's still that chance that could happen in Pokemon too. I mean, cards are still up a ton. They're just not as up as much as they were in February. And was it February, March? We kind of started to see the turn. I think that's when it was, maybe April.
I think
when it
so.
started, when it started reopening more and people wanted to sell their cards because, I don't know, panic, or they just wanted to go do things. And that was something we talked about in April too, was what are they going to do in order to go out and do all those festivals? They didn't do anything for, I guess it was 18 months. So instead of spending money on festivals or traveling, they spent it on Pokemon. They need to now sell that Pokemon to go and do the things that they want to do already. So, I mean, that's another part of it. Like, what is that going to look like? Because, I mean,
I wonder how many of like those people are like I sometimes I think about like what those people, like, we'd say that a lot, and I think there's certainly a lot of that, but how many of like the people still in the hobby, like, do they just like to spend their money on Pokemon and stuff, right? Like, are they just like, because some people, that's just like what you do, right? Like, they'd rather spend their money on this than take trips, right? But I think there were the majority of people who came into the hype were just average people who will pick social activities over a card any day, of course. That's kind of funny to think about.
And then there's also that whole aspect of crypto too. Like, what did that play? Like, how did that play into the card value going up? Because you had Bitcoin selling at 60K or 64, I think was the high. And people probably were cashing out and being like, where can I put my money now? Like, where can I spend it? So, like,
this is why I said it could have been anything.
Yep. There's
because
no
it was
idea.
It was so much of like, it was just social momentum hype that the money could have flowed anywhere. And I think we did see a short-term, very high correlation between digital assets and collectibles for sure, because, and it goes back to that theme of folks in our generation making very quick money and looking for the next place to make very quick money, and eventually that ends very badly. I mean, we kind of saw it, right? Because we saw the crypto market get cut in half and Pokemon get cut in half. So we kind of did see an example of how that could end very badly for a lot of people, right?
I mean, we saw it in options trading too. That was a big thing for Rob. Like that was, I mean, that I kind of remember that too, because that was a big focal thing of, if you were like looking for option trading, you could see TikToks, Instagram posts, YouTubes about all these get rich quick schemes, but they don't, I mean, it's the same kind of thing. Like people made quick bucks off of that too. Cause I mean, everything went up. So
that's how everything went up.
Yeah. So it was hard not to make money.
Yeah.
Like I made money off football cards, and I didn't even, when I got into it, like I didn't have like the ambition of making money off of it. I paid like $70 a box. I should have kept them sealed because they sold for $1,400 7 months later. But like, that was just like, I think a lot of people stumbled into it too. Like they had no idea that it was going to be worth anything like that. I just sent an article over private chat. The guy who sold the Charizard for $350 bought it for $700 in 2009 or 2011. Like it's not, I don't think that's going to happen again.
Yeah, I don't think so.
You're
either.
Probably right on
and
that.
I think that's where a lot of people are running into trouble, is that they have this level of confidence that they're going to be able to make some incredible kind of money in this hobby, and they don't realize that a lot of it, like there were some people who very much thought that Pokemon was undervalued and were right, but the compression of those returns into such a short time period, as we all know, was something no one could have predicted. Like that could have happened over a 5 to 10 year period, but not a 6 month period. I mean, that it was just, it's a statistical anomaly, right? It was just the fact of what's happened over the past 18 months is just insanity, you know? So, and there's just this, like, there's people that, this is how I think about it, is that there's a lower barrier to entry, lower than ever, on being able to bet on yourself from an entrepreneurial or business standpoint, right? Whether that's your perceived skill set as a stock trader, or your perceived skill set as a reseller, or your perceived skill set as a social media, you know, influencer or whatever. It's easier than ever to take a non-traditional route to try to make money. But I'm not convinced that there are more people than ever with the skill set that lends them to be successful in those things. And so I think what we're seeing is a lot of people try to bet on themselves and their perceived skill and knowledge and wisdom or whatever. And some people are using Pokemon as the medium to try to play out that thesis. And I don't think that they realize that it's kind of like I said, that, like, you know, you have to really, the people who are going to make money in this are the high level of transactions on low cost basis stuff that are more of that are a business. It's not like trading stocks. It's a business. It is a cash flow producing business structure, right? Versus like this kind of like what is even attractive about buying $100 card and selling it 5 years later for $150? Like, what could you have done with that $100? Like, where could you have put that to, you know, make a much better return than, you know, after fees, taxes, inflation, whatever, making $10 on a $20? You know what I mean? Like, it's, people don't understand the opportunity cost. They get too hyper focused on the the thing that's exciting now and that people have already made a lot of money. And it's the same thing I talk about with Bitcoin. Like when I was buying Bitcoin at 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, like that was when you made the easy money to now. Yes, it was a lot of risk, but like it 50x, like,
Yeah.
you know, like
it's a lot.
25 to 50x depending where you entered there, right? Like even buying at 5 and 10,000 and 15,000, like
You still
that was
return.
the like quote unquote easy money, right? Like now it's a totally different ball game when you have more eyes on it, when you have like, I think about it like let's say, let's use something easier, like Bitcoin as an example, right? But it can extrapolate to buying a card too, right? Like if you bought it at 50,000 and it went to 25,000, now all the people who still have it at 25,000 are scratching and clawing their way to get out close to even or still at a loss, but not as big of a loss, all the way back up. And that's so much downward pressure on pricing that you can see the same thing in the Pokemon market, where it's going to take an astronomical amount of time for the majority of these things, if ever, to re-hit all-time highs that they sold for, because there's so much downward pressure on the pricing as people try to exit all the way up. It's easy when people are piling in all the way up to see returns and make money, but it's a lot harder when people are trying to get out all the way back up. It's a headwind, right? So from a market standpoint, there's a huge headwind. From a collecting like Pokemon standpoint, like I love this shit and it's still super fun. It's wildly interesting and I love it, and I'll buy things whenever I want at a reasonable price. But like from a like thinking you're an investor standpoint, like I'm sorry, but like it's just not gonna happen for you. Like the average person is not going to make any sort of needle moving dollar or percentage return on the majority of items here. It's because if it was that easy, everyone would be doing it.
I think the opportunity's gone because you have to buy like cheap raw cards that could be highly graded, and that they don't exist anymore.
Yeah, I think we had to own it in 2016, you know, or 18 or 19, like,
or March. You could own it in March,
February of 20, you know, like, and that's but this is, you know, these are super broad-based terms, because I think what all of us have always wanted to do was to help the average person understand, or to give them a way to protect themselves from themselves. People who are super deep into this hobby, like much deeper even than we are perhaps, right? Like there's always opportunity for people like that, because they understand where the true dislocations and arbitrage opportunities are. But I mean, there are people with way more knowledge of this hobby than myself. And I know they have years and legs up on me, but also, you know, sometimes it's just about seeing the right opportunity at the right time, right? And being able to do that, you know, at a big scale, or being able to get the right entry point because of a relationship you have and the right timing and all these things. Like,
it's a lot of,
you know, it's a lot of luck, and it's a lot of situational, you know, it's a lot of, you know, being in the right place at the right time effectively, and also having built the right relationships and putting yourself out there all the time. And then also being, you know, to my phrase that I say, student of the market a lot of the, you know, continually, and knowing that, hey, when, you know, X card sells for $1,000 and you have a pretty damn good feeling that it should be like a $2,500 card, that happens. Like these are highly inefficient markets. Like you know, I've had that, you know, we've talked about this before, where I've snagged a card for, you know, lower dollar amounts, but, you know, whatever, $40, and then immediately flipped it for 200 or 150, because there's so much inefficiency in these kind of markets. Like it just happens, like a freaking eBay auction that happens on a Wednesday afternoon that you happen to catch. Like that's just when it's about participating, you know, but it's also like having the knowledge, like when there's 30 seconds left on an auction, you don't have time to go learn about that card, what the pop is,
Not at
what
all.
the price history has been, what the demand should be like conceptually based on, you know, the historical significance and popularity. Like, and sorry for going on this rant, but it's just like,
it's true though.
It's like, it's
100% true, because that's what it comes down to. Because when I was buying cards, like I would spend 6 to 7 hours a day just looking at the market, because that's how you would buy, because there were so many people moving in and out. You had to know what the prices were at that time. Otherwise, it was hard to know what you were paying for, if it was a good price or not. And that,
dude,
and
it came out to 6 to 7 hours a day. Wow.
Oh,
in October?
October, November, and into December. And that's kind of how I was able to find things. Like that was the only way. And like, it would be like sporadic. So like I would choose like different times throughout different days to see what was going on or what was ending, to kind of get an idea of who was actually bidding on things. Like, and now we know this, like you can tell like at 11 a.m., like you don't want to be on, you want 11 a.m. East Coast, because the West Coast isn't up usually. And that's where a lot of the buyers were, they were West Coast. So like it was figuring out that, and like you don't, like Connor said, you don't have the time to figure out if the card is worth, if it's going up, like what your value is going to be. You need to already kind of know that. And if you're jumping back in now, like after not being in the market for like 3 weeks, like you could get burned because you don't know where prices are. And you don't really, there's no, like it's hard to even trust the data on eBay, because like it could be fake too. So like you kind of have to like live through it. Otherwise it's hard to buy. It's just, you're going to get hurt.
It's hard to keep up with alerts too. Like I even trying to keep up with alerts where I'm not even in it all that often. And I just try to keep up with my email, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, the volume. That's one thing that I cannot wait to kind of put together with the app, is just to get sheer volume on things. Because I mean, right now we can kind of see that, but to really see, like to be able to step back and look at the market from that perspective, you know, and accumulating that with historical data, like adding to that and seeing that over the course of 2 to 3 years, that'll be awesome. I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see that kind of thing.
That's the thing. Like if you're coming in and you're like if you're thinking like long term, like 3 to 5 years, I think you'll be okay. If you are thinking like 3 to 5 months or even a year to 2, like I don't know if it's going to be, it might not be worth it. Like you might only make like $15 on a card. It's kind of like what you're doing. If you're coming in to like enjoy it and like you don't care about how much it costs, and like go crazy, buy whatever you want. But if you're trying to like start something more than that, then you kind of have to look at it as 3 to 5 years, not 1 to 2 or 1 to 3. Like I'm targeting the 30th anniversary. Like that's the thing right now, because they didn't really have a chance to like go crazy for the 25th anniversary. I think they'll do a lot more in the 30th, because they'll have the printing machine. They'll have the availability of people being able to go out to like these conferences and these events. Like even the Olympics, like I think they probably had more planned for that too, but there was nobody there. Like how they probably might have had something planned for that, I would assume, but like no one could really go to it and interact with it. So I mean, that'll be interesting too, to see what they have planned for the 30th anniversary.
Neo reprint. Can I get a Neo Genesis reprint, please?
I want that. I mean, or Southern Island or anything like that.
I knew you were about to say Southern Island.
Cool. I know. It is
like stuff like that. Like reprints are good.
I'm excited for like what they're doing. I don't know. Like I think some of Modern's pretty amazing. Like I think Celebrations and 25th anniversary set Japan, like that's literally like it's
that'll look awesome.
Anniversary set.
The Japanese stuff is just so good, like compared to the English.
It looks awesome. I know.
I mean, Evolving Skies. Have you guys seen them? Like the evolutions, the art in that, it's great. It's good.
I'm trying to get a handle on the pull rates, like what's going on, because I'm seeing a lot of great cards everywhere, and it's hard because it's like social media is like you only show your wins type of thing. But like I've seen people open like the build and battle deck boxes or whatever. They have a few packs and they got like a few more pre-release packs and pull like multiple hyper rares and stuff and alt arts and all like. And I just think like there's a lot of opportunity in the card market for Pokemon to do really cool, unique things. Like, and guys have talked about this, right? Like one of ones or numbered cards or signature cards or, you know, what have you, like fun. All the things that traditionally we've seen in sports or even Marvel, like the sketch cards, like, which I'm learning more about, you know, through some of the guys that I like to watch, like, or, you know, talk to in the hobby and, all that stuff, like stuff that I'm traditionally obviously used to with sports too, right? Like numbered cards, like that. Growing up, like that was always the thing. If you pulled a card and it was numbered, like you
that's still the thing now too with those cards. Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, and like one of ones now are more than ever a thing. Like Pokemon has a lot of cool opportunities to do stuff like that, and I'm sure they will. They've done amazing things with the art, right? These alt arts are just crazy good. But I still think people are paying too damn much for all this modern stuff. I mean, I just don't. In that, like, I'll pay to open and enjoy modern, but I won't pay that price for a singular card, no matter what it is, no matter how bad I want it. I just like can't like circle that square. I just can't. I don't know.
It doesn't make sense. It's just like I would like for those alt arts, like, I'll just wait. Like I'll wait this 3 to 6 months for the price to come down. And like it's just like I don't know, like if you're I think people forget like how early on when those cards in like early 1990s, like those cards, like people forgot about them, and that's why the value went up because people just the time factor is huge in those sets. Modern, everyone's just going to keep them nice and sealed and safe and put them in slabs, and like there's going to be thousands of them. So
literally goes into a sleeve and a card saver one as soon as you pull it.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Like, and especially if it's Japanese, like it's ridiculous. Like the amount of quality cards that are going to be around from this era 10 years from now is going to be pretty outstanding. Like
it's gonna be a lot.
The I mean, I've kept track of I've mostly kept track of the, you know, for personal stuff like the vintage populations, but man, some of the modern populations, it is just crazy.
Yeah, modern Charizard, I'm gonna guess, are just gross.
Yeah. Like if you look at like Hidden Fates, like half the PSA pop is the Charizard. Like that's not even in numbers, like compares to like what like we've seen. Like I don't know. I feel like a few months ago I looked at evolutions and there were like 8,000 to 10,000 Charizards, and now there's like 14,000 Charizards, like just the regular like hollow Charizard, and I'm like,
it's gonna get worse.
How did that grow so fast? Like
it's gonna get way
worse. It's gonna get way worse. And I've looked at a bunch of numbers for the last like 6 months of the more the vintage pops, but it's like I said before, I think the next 3 to 6 months are gonna be fascinating, and this will release after I do this Market Monday video anyway, so I'll be double saying it, but just like the next 3 to 6 months are what's gonna totally like just like get your popcorn ready. Like it's gonna be fascinating. I'm so excited from a standpoint of like a person who none of my like financial standing is tied to Pokemon at all. Meaning, like, if my house burnt down, I lost all my Pokemon stuff, like, it would really suck, but financially I would be okay. I can't imagine having, and this is what I said to Swami today, I'm like, I can't imagine if this is like your business, or like you've quit your job to like do Pokemon full time, or like, oh my God, like between like, imagine if you were like a middleman who was also like flipping cards and doing all this, and basically you can't get your cards back from PSA. All the places to middleman to are basically closed, and you are just watching the market tank while you have however many thousands of dollars of grading fees sitting at PSA. Like, and I laugh, but it's actually like, how do you just not
it's
wake
a reality
up, like,
for
vomiting
some
every day? Yeah,
It's
it
scary.
is. And
I
it's
can't
probably
imagine
like,
it.
there's probably like less people than we think that are like that.
Hopefully.
Because I think hopefully, because I think a lot of those people like have some sort, like a lot of people, well, it's hard because some, like a lot of LGS owners don't dabble in the graded card market, or never have. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm interested to see how some of these businesses have developed that are doing large scale, like raw degrading operations, and like what the other parts of their business look like, if they have anything to do with Pokemon or not. Like it's super interesting, right? Because some of them are probably sports guys, some of them are probably totally rando doing something else thing, like, you know, like people like us who like, but at a larger scale, right? Might have a regular job or whatever. But gosh, people who really went all in at the wrong time, that's a scary thought, honestly. It really
and you
is.
haven't even brought up the price increase for booster boxes. Like I pre-ordered 2 Evolving Sky booster boxes,
nice.
Those booster display
Look
boxes.
At you.
I'm excited. I'm excited. You know, honestly, I should have just sent them right over to you, and then be like,
"Oh, so you can open them for you?" Yeah, it's a good idea.
Hands.
Send them.
Just give them the corner.
Crazy.
I know, right? But I'm just looking at these prices. Like I paid $147 a piece. Oh my gosh!
I don't even know what that is.
But I mean,
it just looks expensive.
It looks very cool. That's got to be one of those super rares. But
this is
What is it? Waifu
SP.
Wednesday.
Waifu Wednesday. Yeah. So this is an SP Weiss Schwartz card. So there's 6 of these in the full set, and they're like faux signature
It's
cards
a beautiful
from
card.
the voice artist. It's I wish I could like describe to you how stunning this is in person. It reminds me of some of the Pokemon full arts, but like even more so. It's just
anytime
really cool
Rudy is selling Weiss, Weiss, I tried to get in on it, but it goes so quickly.
Yeah.
But talking about going back to the prices and the distributor prices, and I don't know what recently everything has come out to, but paying $147 per booster box, 36 packs, that was pretty expensive to me. That's why I only bought 2. Because I want to get a taste for the set, but that's pretty high. So, you know, LGSs, LCSs who like are already working on razor thin margins, you know? Like,
yeah. I mean, it's
not selling though.
It's not crazy. Like that kind of falls between like Walmart prices for a pack and like Barnes and Noble, you know, like, or an LGS, like, because that's like what, like 4 and change a pack or whatever. Like,
you're right.
It is what it is now, right? Like it's.
You know, one of the things that I will say.
That was the thing. They were cheaper. When I got Vivid Voltage, they were like $75 they were $500 for 6 boxes. Like, I don't think that's ever going to happen again now.
Right.
Oh, absolutely not. And I'm not going to lie. The other thing too, that kind of messes with that price point for me is I'm very much used to buying draft boxes from Magic the Gathering, and I'm paying like 80, 85, maybe 90 at the most. unless I go to an
Probably by
LGS and I'm
Japanese.
paying like 120. Yeah. Well, so I mean, now it was just surprising to me because I'm used to that price range and I'm like, holy shit, all the ETBs are sold out. Those were in the like the 45-ish range before tax, you know? All the ETBs on the Pokemon Center website. This is Pokemon Center website. And I was just I was shook. But I'm really excited for the set. I'm really excited to see where that goes because I think a lot of people will be really happy with it. And I did have a conversation with PokeGal. I know she skipped the one that just came out and she's interested in the Evolving Skies. And I don't blame her. Yeah.
Yeah, it was probably the good choice. I bought a little bit of Chilling Reign. I have a little bit of Evolving Skies, but not like I could really skip it, mostly just because I loved EV Heroes so much and I'm cool with it. But I did get the Pokemon Center exclusive ETBs for display pieces.
Oh, nice.
Because they
Those
have
look
the
pretty.
evolutions on them. Yeah, I thought they were cool. Like I thought they would be cool to keep to kind of complement the EV Heroes stuff I have. But
do you already get them in?
I would rather just
have they already shipped?
They haven't shipped yet. No, they were pre-order. I think
is it the 26th?
It's like 12 days from now. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think you're right. Yeah, today's the 14th, so the 26th, I think. Yeah. But no, I'm much more interested in basically buying as much 25th anniversary stuff as I can get my hands on. But only certain products. I think that like what's been great is because we know so much about what's coming out. There have been so many people who have been able to put together videos and say, hey, here's the best bang for your buck. And luckily, the things that I kind of wanted the most are the best bang for your buck. So that's great.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No doubt. No doubt. They have a lot of great product coming out.
This before. Yeah. And that's, I've said this before, but it's like, it's hopefully going to make it really accessible for a wide array of people. Like, I think a lot of people will, like, this could be their first foray back into Pokemon. Like, if the marketing around this goes right, I think we could see a lot of people come in for the first time. I just hope they can get their hands on it,
And they are doing a lot of reprints of a lot of those vintage cards, like the Charizard. So it's kind of, I like how they are, tailoring it for us in a way, because I mean, those are the ones that we recognize. And so bringing even more of us back into the hobby, which is always a good thing. Yeah. It's always fun.
And it helps people like remember the historical significance, right? Like help them understand like the history of Pokemon. Like I'm trying not to look at all the spoilers because I just want, like, I know there's like literally a video out there with like every single card now that leaked. I don't know, like someone stole a pack of cards from some Kentucky manufacturing plant or something. I don't know. I'm bad at keeping up with that stuff, guys. I'm sorry, but like my brain only has so much space. But
how dare you?
Something like that.
How dare you?
Yeah, gosh, God forbid. But yeah.
Well,
it's
honestly,
hard. Isn't it hard? Like, don't you feel like you almost have to like know everything sometimes, and then like it's hard. People expect you to like know everything. Like people will ask random questions sometimes, and I'm like, how would I ever know that? Like, or remember that? Like, there's only so much that can fit in one's brain about Pokemon, but
oh my gosh,
I don't know. It's
that
funny.
Is so true. I have alerts for like 10 to maybe 15 different keywords, with those Google alerts, right? Just to keep up on news. And I get them twice a day and it is hard. Like my inbox now is perpetually like, I'm the kind of person that if I have like notifications on things, I need them to disappear.
Inbox person. Yeah.
Yeah. And now I'm like, I'm sitting at 29 right now. Yeah. I'm sitting at 29 because I can't keep up with these alerts, and I have a lot of,
I did for emails
really
is I turned off the notifications so that it doesn't even show the number on the icon. And I just pretend it's not happening. I get like 50 a day from eBay.
Oh gosh.
That like
keeping up with those is hard.
11:45 alert update. Yeah. It's like 50 to 60 of them now. But it's like,
I'm thinking about turning it off.
It's hard. It's hard. I've thought of, I try to turn them off selectively. Most days, like a lot of times I'm just looking for the number on some of them, but it's hard because it's not even super helpful because relistings show up in that, right? So like I'll have like, I don't know.
That's true.
PSA 10 Pikachu promo. And I just want to see how many listings are hitting the market every single day and just directionally where something like that's going, right? And then, it's some stuff you want to buy and some stuff that you're just interested in and some stuff that's market, study related. So, but it's like, yeah, how am I?
I'm with you.
It's a lot.
You know what though, with how I have it set, and I'm thinking about changing it. I have it set to, I have a set to where like I'll see any Pokemon listing that's there. So like no specifications, just Pokemon, right? And then I have another alert where it's Pokemon, but anything that's sold over 1,000. And honestly, that email in particular is the one that pisses me off all the time because I always see dumbass bullshit where it's like, oh, this Charmander sold for $1,000 and it's literally a unlimited base set. It looks like trash.
It's legit.
It's legit. I'm looking at one right now. It says 1995 Charmander Pokemon card. It is just a base set unlimited Pokemon card, and it's sold for $1,000. And I'm just like, come on, it makes me mad. and honestly, I probably need to change
search that you guys have. Like, what's the one you like to look at the most, or that you have that you like find most interesting? If you have one.
I actually have one for Bowman Chrome autos because I try to keep in touch with baseball too, just to see what people are listing and see what players are popular, like which ones people are thinking are prospecting. That's really interesting because there's a few guys that I'm prospecting right now. So yeah, that's kind of what I watch.
Yeah, mine's first edition raw, so. It's been that way for like almost a year.
Almost a year.
That's the one I use. But I turned it off in, was it April? Just because there was nothing. It was first edition raws that were coming out that looked like someone had chewed on them and then put them on their bed sheets. So it wasn't ideal.
Oh,
or they wanted $5 a card, which I'm not paying.
Gosh, that's too.
I mean, they were nice. I would sell them for $5 each, but I wouldn't buy them for $5.
Exactly.
Anytime I see raw cards on a bed sheet, I think of you, James, because of that one sale. I need to send those listings to you when I see them. You probably already have seen them by the time I'm sending them your way, but I think of that every single time.
Well, the best part was sending the shipping instructions too. That was fun, also.
Yes, that's wild.
That was. I mean, the cards were great. So I can't. And then I also got a Raichu out of it too, which you gave me for like $60. That was
just incredibly lucky. Like, how did you come out of that with minty cards? You know what I'm saying?
Well, that was the thing. I was in December. People started panicking and wanted to sell because they were worried that it wasn't going to keep going up. Canada James, when I spoke to him, he already told me like in January that he had wished he had not sold to me because he didn't think it was going to keep going up in value because he sold to me in November. But like a lot of people just thought it was like this bubble that was going to pop. So they wanted to just sell as fast as possible and just get money as they could.
And Canada James sold you like all those cards for less than $4 a card, right? Something crazy.
So he was selling me basically like makeshift packs, like pack fresh cards that. So his dad made him when he opened them in like 2000. He made him put on a sleeve and put them in a top holder, and that's how he stored his cards. And I'm like, okay, well, you're like 1% of the people that actually did that.
That is a shit ton of top loaders.
Yeah, it's because he had 1,300 cards. But he was basically, a lot of people wouldn't buy from him because of the high shipping. And I was like, fuck shipping. You're selling me pack fresh cards that they're like $2 a piece, and I'm getting a guaranteed rare. And he told me if I bought a certain amount of packs, he'd give me hollows too. So I was like, okay, how many do I need to buy? So like I was paying like maybe it's probably the highest I paid was like $3 or $4 per card, but I was getting a hollow rare. So it kind of made it worth it to do that.
I thought he sent all of his hollows in for grading.
So he sold me some, but he's got Typhlosion 17, 18. He's got what else did he have? He had all those hollows from those Neo sets. He has all of them. He also had Gym Challenge. He had a bunch of those too. That's where I got the Ditto and the Giovanni from him as well. And then he had a bunch of uncommons and commons that he sold too. But he had so many cards, but I think he's still waiting to get those cards back because I haven't talked to him in probably 6 months, but I think he said he had like, I think they were like 8 or 9 months away when I last spoke to him. So
I hope when they come back.
Yeah,
I want to see him. He should open up an Instagram account. You should tell him.
So he has an Instagram account, but he doesn't post cards. I'll have to send it to you afterwards. But he collected the cards with his dad. He had them, and then I think he forgot about them for 15, 20 years. And then all of a sudden started wanting to sell them because they were worth something finally again. And people were talking about them.
Hey, that was free money for a lot of people in a time where a lot of people really needed some money. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And that there was just so much opportunity to buy stuff like that because
provider of liquidity,
educated on it. Oh yeah, they had no idea.
It's the best situation to be in, right? Where like those people gave up upside, but they needed it, and we were able to buy things and provide that liquidity in a way that wasn't gonna be a detriment to us because we were really lucky to be in a situation where we were still doing fine when a lot of people were, in dire straits.
So I was actually going to offer to buy his complete set, but then I told him, like, you probably don't want to do that because these are worth X, Y, and Z. Like I think we were negotiating, but it was going to be 1,300 cards for like $3,000, all of them, everything he had for $3,000. But then I was like, well, you might want to check out this and look into this. And I gave him your podcast too, Jess, just to listen to it. And he's like, oh, so maybe I shouldn't sell these for that. I'm like, you probably shouldn't. Which I kick myself for not buying all those cards for. That would have been.
But that's being.
But then I wanted to like help him because he was nice. He wasn't like, because I dealt with sellers that were like assholes, and I was like, okay, fuck you. I'm not going to help you out then. But like I didn't want to like rip him off because he just didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's like when you're in the space where like, let's put it this way, like you're in a good financial position. We're kind of like making excess money here through basically some arbitrage and some hard work. Like we can make that conscious choice to be really kind and good to both people buying from us and people we're buying from. And like, I think it puts us in a better situation to not get greedy as long as we stay grounded there. But like, I have no problem. Like I'll have people, like if I post cards to my IG story for sale and people will be like, I get paid on Friday, like, can I buy it then? Or like next week, whenever, if the 15th falls on like the next Wednesday or stuff like this happens. And I'm like if you don't have the money for it, like you probably shouldn't buy it. Like I have no problem telling that to someone. And I think that's the only way that we can continue to help like the hobby from a card standpoint move forward is if we do everything we can as collectors, but people who are also selling into this to like be better stewards of the hobby, and that we're not undercutting or being, bad sellers and like taking advantage of people. Because the more people that get burned, like what is it to make an extra like 10% on something if people just keep falling out of the hobby because of that? And if everyone's doing that, it's not worth it, because then like because at the end of the day, I think all of us need to just remember like that we love Pokemon and we love these hobbies, and it like sounds cliche, but like you have to like kind of like be protective of the hobby you do, and part of that is, you know, being that good steward and being someone who doesn't, you know, backstab and undercut people and helps things progress forward, you know.
Or call modern product options like a schmuck.
Well,
yeah.
You know, I mean, and to your point too, there's plenty of money to be made for everyone. There's plenty of money to be made for everyone. So, you know, there's a lot going around. You don't have to be scummy to really make like legitimate money. And it's funny that you say that too, because I drafted my roundup that's coming out tomorrow morning. I already drafted it. It's scheduled. It's good to go. And literally that's one of the things that I bring up. You know, if we don't take care of the hobby as it is right now and make sure, one of the points that I made was if we don't make sure children have plenty of opportunities to experience the hobby with positive feelings at this time around, we're prioritizing short-term gain for our long-term gain, because then we may not see, you know, who knows what kind of an impact it'll have on those larger on the generations moving forward, but it could have a negative impact where they don't re-enter the market, which is again going back to how you create a stable market is the next generation comes in and is able to continue to prop the market up. So, I mean, you took it from a different perspective, but it's the same concept. You know, we have to make sure to also try and take care of people in the hobby, because if we see people leave the hobby due to negative experiences, negative feelings, like holding the bag on something, you know, and sometimes those situations are going to be, it is what it is. Like that's an is what it is kind of conversation, or situation. But to your point, you know, just like letting people know, hey, you know, you could probably get that for a lot more, even though right now I want to buy it. And I would really benefit from not telling you this information.
Yeah.
I mean, some people they put themselves in that position where they can't do that. Their margins are like, they kind of have to be, unfortunately, they've put themselves in a position where they have to be kind of scummy, which isn't an excuse, but like that's a scary part of the market that could be happening when December and November come around. People need money and they're like, how do I prop up a product that I know is not worth something, but I can use my influence to try to prop it up. And that I think is going to happen more often too. And I think it's happening with modern. And like we know of content creators that do that. And that's a problem that I don't think it's been brought to light yet, just because I don't think people know any better, except for unless you kind of have been in the market, you kind of have an understanding. But people coming in, like they don't know if someone who has 10,000 followers, like they expect them to be trusting and have the correct information. They might just fall for that trap and they'll be in the market for a month and then get burnt and they'll be out of the market, which isn't ideal for us long term.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really wish those people would just like stay in their lane. Yep. Like if you create a certain type of content, then stop talking about things you don't understand just because you feel like you have a large following and ability to make some more money off of it, or feel like you should be talking about, you know, the money side of things or whatever. Like if you're an entertainer, just entertain, right?
Yep.
Dance, monkey dance, but don't start trying to talk about, you know, markets and fundamentals and, you know, investing or on the other side, like a lot of people like will talk about, they will speak as if they have information about the Pokemon company or the like distributor level information or like all these things where like they're not even in that conversation. Like I would never try to talk about like what's going on from like the supply side of Pokemon, because I have no
it's all speculative
to that whatsoever. I don't run an LGS. I don't have a distributor license. Like I don't know anything about that. All I know about is traditional market investing, a love for Pokemon, how those intersect, and how investor psychology works. Like, I will stay in my lane. Like, and it gets really frustrating where, like, that's where so many people so easily get burned, is when these people start talking about like investing, and like, not to beat a dead horse, but they just start talking about that, and that information is being disseminated to a ton of people. And honestly, I really do think that unfortunately there's going to be another hype cycle probably this year, depending on what happens with kind of the world as an overlay. But come on, they're doing another freaking first edition base set box break in the fall. Like, history tends to repeat itself, right? And you mix together 25th anniversary and getting into that seasonality of the hobby, and this box break, and
who's doing
all
box
this,
break?
and Gary. And I don't know exactly who's involved, but I know Gary's involved, and it's like an event. Maybe Aoki's with him doing it.
Oh, is that the one where they're doing? Are they doing MetaZoo and they're doing first edition?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if they're doing MetaZoo. I did see something about that, but I don't know if that was the same. I didn't know if it was first edition or that was the same break. But this has been planned for a long time, I know. It's in Vegas, I think, but I don't think there's like,
that would make sense.
It's not like in an event to go to. Yeah. But I know, like, they talked about it months and months ago. It'll be interesting to see if Logan Paul does anything again. Like, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity to people to sell stuff into hype again. It's not going to be, I don't think, the same level by any means, but
I would hope not.
No. And that's why it's like there's all the right headwinds in place for like the market to do poorly, but there's also these just weird tailwinds of like, we might get a short-term perfect storm, where honestly, like, that's why like people who are very deep into the hobby like may be considering buying now, because there's certain opportunities that I think are going to be a short-term play on this market. And it's just like whether or not you want to make money like that or put the time and effort into it, right? And Jess, I think it's super interesting that you're like looking at Bowman Chrome, like baseball players and stuff, because I think like a lot of the opportunity kind of in this space is probably elsewhere, right? Where there's less eyes or more, I don't know, just I think less like, I don't know how to say it, but like less like social momentum around it, basically, right? Like, like I, for one, will continue to be thinking about Harry Potter oriented items going into a 25th anniversary. And know what? I will say it because not enough people are going to listen to me for it to affect what I'm doing. But I will continue to search and look in different places for specific items, because they're doing a lot of cool stuff next year over the whole year. And I think it's going to be like really interesting. And then
they're putting out new cards? Harry Potter?
No, like stuff with the book. Like stuff with the books.
Gotcha.
And they're doing like these I guess you could call it like a museum sort of thing, but it's going to be like touring, and they're doing I just pre-ordered, there's like a reprint of the first book with like different art in it and like a special like seal on the front. I forget, but it's like, and it's not like limited edition, but once they're gone, they're gone next year. Like, and they're doing a lot of stuff. There's a whole article with all these different events they're doing and different, things they're coming out with, products and whatnot. And
are the tours all in London?
No, like the things in like Philly to start. Philly's the first place this thing is, and then I think the goal is for it to be like toured around and go. I'm assuming it would go to New York City and maybe LA. Who knows? But no, I think like if you like it, like if you my problem is like there's so many other things I do that like I just love Pokemon, so like I'm involved in this hobby, right? And then like I love Harry Potter, so I do that stuff, right? Like I literally just rewatched all the movies. It was awesome. But like I just don't have the time personally to go and dive into a bunch of other like collectible hobbies that are probably, under, flying under the radar that have a lot of opportunity. Like I would rather like spend my time doing other things, but some people like that's like a better use of their spare time. And I think that's where people who want to spend time in this ecosphere should be spending more of their time, is not where all the eyes are, which is Pokemon.
But where they're not.
Yeah.
But where they're not. Yeah. So, but like, I think people should just like enjoy the hobbies they like and not like try to like make something out of nothing, because there's a lot of risk there, like. And I don't think the average person has enough like financial wherewithal. Like the biggest thing I worry about is that like most of the people who are involved in this Pokemon market don't even have a savings account or a traditional brokerage account or a Roth IRA. A lot of them probably don't have like 401ks at work. Like a lot of people just like don't have financial stability. And that's like, we've talked about this before. Like that worries me a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. Well, going back to your point about, someone sticking maybe with one market versus learning multiple collectible categories. So this book that I've been trying to get through, Killer Stuff and the Money, which is about the antique world, right? And what's really interesting about these guys in the antique world have been in it for so long. They know so many categories on things. Honestly, how the author Maureen Stanton describes them as being like a little bit of historians, which is really interesting to me because it takes a long time to learn these things, but once you learn it, you get really good at it. So when you start to go to those flea markets, you can find some really good stuff and you know exactly what you're looking for. And I think like for me, at least, I want to try to get there with at least one, but ideally, because I'm looking at everything from a long term, because all the things I collect are things that I love. Like, at first I thought it probably isn't possible for me to learn all of them, but I think seeing these antique folks like really, really focus in on learning these things and just getting experience, and it takes years and it takes time. I mean, that'll be really interesting. I don't know. I hope to get there at least with a few. At least with a few. I don't know if I can do everything, but I'm with you. I don't know.
That's an awesome goal though. That's super cool. I feel like I'm on the path there with Pokemon. And I think for me, it's probably enough for me. Like maybe some of the stuff around like other, I don't know, like maybe specific anime or like Harry Potter, like I could delve deeper into from that standpoint. But I do just really enjoy, because there's so much to learn about Pokemon that even I haven't scratched over the years. Like always, something is always coming up that I don't know about, or that I've never like for gosh sakes, I'd never even seen that CP6 secret rare Charizard before until the other day. And I'm like, how did I not know this existed? I want to know more about this. Like, and I just immediately write it down in my notes to like look into later and like understand, what the history of that card has been so far, like blah, 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 whatever. And then obviously the same for like, all the interesting vintage stuff. But there's just only so much time,
Only so much time. Only so much time.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. And when you bring more markets or more categories into the mix, it makes decision making harder, because to your point, what you brought up earlier, sometimes people don't realize opportunity cost. And you did talk about this on a Market Monday when you said you're probably not going to make money on your Pokemon cards. Your money might just be better served in a Roth IRA if you're purely thinking about it from an investment perspective. But, that's the other thing too that I've been struggling a little bit with. When I am looking at the Bowman Chrome cards, like, interesting. Do I go for these cards or do I go for a Pokemon? Or I was thinking about it the other day when we were talking about that vending series sheet that we had gotten weeks ago. And you and I, we had talked about it, I was thinking to myself, okay, so do I put this money in an Otani card or do I get this vending series, card sheet that I can peel?
Opportunity cost is hard, right? And it's like, especially when it comes to hobbies, because it's like there's entertainment money, and then there's like money that you're putting in on an opportunity that you think is something that you can flip or that is an investment. Like, and there's, like those three types really, like there's, flips, store values, and longer term investments. Right. But there's all that. And then so that compared to the opportunity cost of putting that money in traditional markets, or putting that money, paying down debt with that money, for gosh sakes, like doing a lot of things that create a return, either instant or longer term potentially. And that, opportunity cost is always like, it's one of the toughest factors to like decide about,
Oh, 100%, 100%. And something that I did want to bring up, because I just looked at it. Holy crap. Okay. So this is immediately becoming a 2-parter episode. It's going to have to be, it's going to cut me off. I know, right? Absolute shocker, right? Which I still can't believe, the one with PokeGal. It just it didn't tell me that it was going to cut it off short to 75 minutes or something like that. And
weird.
Yeah, my host just automatically did it, and I was like, oh shit. So yeah, I'm gonna definitely have to split this up into 2 parts. But this has definitely been good. I don't know how you guys are doing on time. We can go for a little bit more if you
We can do a little bit. How about you, James?
Yeah, I'm fine.
I'm getting a little tired, but I'm doing all right.
Is that beer?
No, it's not. I wish.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say someone brought beer, which isn't a bad idea.
No, but it's in my cool Pokemon glass, so at least there's that.
Okay, so we do have to see the Pokemon glass now.
Oh, it's awesome. It's so awesome. It has all 151 on it.
What? That is so cool.
Yeah, they're so dope.
Oh man, where does one get such things?
It was this place, Glass to Mouth, and so they were sold out because I like waited too long to buy it. And Ryan at OG Retro had one, and I waited too long, and I ended up missing it. And then I messaged them, and they were like, "Hey, we found an extra," and so I got super lucky. So I basically got like the last one. So it's very cool.
Those are fun. Yeah, those are awesome. Cool. One thing that I do need to get that is obviously not cards related, but Pokemon related is I need to get Pokemon threads. Like I need some shirts. I need some hats. I noticed the Togepi earlier. I noticed it.
Some dude called me out of my YouTube comments because I pronounce it Togepi. And he's like, I love that you put out content, but you need to learn how to pronounce this. And he like gave me a link to like an anime episode. And I'm like, bro, it's
not that serious.
I'm sorry.
Wait, how did you say it? Did you say Togepi?
Togepi, yeah.
Oh, that does sound a little cringy though.
I don't know.
I'm kidding. I'm just playing with you. I mean, but honestly, some of these newer ones, like I don't know if they're black and white generation. They probably are. If I don't like the design of the Pokemon, I kind of assume that it's probably black and white. But some of them I don't even know how to say. And I needed to learn just from other people saying it. For a long time, I couldn't say Rayquaza because it just, the spelling didn't make sense to me. So I don't know if I'm the only one on that, but Surely not. Which reminds me, I have been debating. So I've got Shining Fates ETB that I got at Target like a number, like maybe last year, something for like the $35. You know, it's on sale, right? The Target on sale ETB Shining Fates. And last time I looked, that was going for like over 100, which kind of blew my mind a little bit. I'm debating whether or not to flip it, just because I don't plan on doing anything with it. I'm just gonna sit on it. I don't know.
You should just open it instead. It's modern.
No, because I'm not like you. I'm not like you, but I'll send it over there to you. I should have brought it with me when you were in Chicago. Why didn't I do that? I should have just brought all the stuff that I needed you to open. Everything. I still need to open up some Strixhaven. I don't know if any of you guys bought Strixhaven Magic the Gathering set.
I did.
But you did? Okay. Mm-hmm. So did you hit anything really good? You did? Okay.
I mean, I really enjoyed it. It's just that those collector's packs are so expensive. That it was crazy. Yeah, I've got. They're all in that box over there. I gotta go through them again. But
did you like the alt art, the Japanese alt art?
Yeah, the Japanese alt arts were sick. Yeah, they were really, really cool. I really enjoyed those.
Oh. Yeah, those are definitely fun. I need to open them. Every time I go to Target, if I see one of those like half, it's not even like a full draft box, it's like one of those half boxes where you get like 10 packs.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I bought some of the Japanese regular packs, and then I bought like one or two of the, because those collector's packs are like $20 or whatever they were.
Oh my God, they're like 20, 22. I just recently saw for one of the newer sets, it might be Historic Horizons or Modern Horizons 2. They were going for something like $39. It was kind of crazy. I have some like collector packs from Aquaria, and I bought them at 15, and now they're going at something like 25 last time I checked. Those collector packs are can sometimes be, you know, definitely worth that money. I don't know about opening them, but
if you like Strixhaven, then I would suggest Gate Ruler, because the like that kind of like feel of like that very just almost over the top artwork, but it's like very flashy, like full, beautiful, hollow, like almost that etched card, like some of those etched cards that are in Strixhaven and Magic. Like the artwork's pretty beautiful. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, hey guys, this has been a good one. This has definitely been good.
I think we hit a lot of topics, huh?
Yeah, we definitely hit a lot of different places. I really like it. I think there's going to be a lot of cool clips from this. But what I will say is we should probably wrap up. So if you guys want to kind of let people know where they can find you, we can start there.
Go ahead, James.
Connor, you can go first.
All right.
Okay, I can go first. Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. Go ahead. My computer's lagging too, so like you start, then I start, then you start, so it's weird. But go ahead.
No, you go.
Okay. You probably cut this out, Jess, at the end. So you can find me on Instagram. My card account is First Edition Pokemon Cards. And you can find me on there. And then my main Instagram, which I keep forgetting the name, which is super productive. Let's see. That one is that one's just my name, James Damon, and then 9 at the end, and you can find me on there. But I don't post any cards on the main one, but you see pictures of Percy, though, the dog.
He's a cutie.
That's what you want.
He's definitely a cutie.
That's all you, Connor.
Sweet. Well, you guys can find me ROC Rock Pokemon. That's for Rochester, where I'm from, not the thing you find in the ground. ROC Pokemon on Instagram and also on YouTube, where you can find my Market Monday videos, where I just kind of talk about a part of the hobby or a different piece of investing strategy or thought process. So yeah, Instagram and YouTube is what I do. Connor, Rock Pokemon. Thanks for having us on, Jess. This is awesome.
Hell yeah. No, I appreciate y'all coming on. So we're going to have to do another marathon.
Yeah, great.
Probably, you know, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe October, or maybe when Celebrations comes out. That'll be really cool. Just see where things are at. Because it's possible it could be totally different. But yeah, anyways. Well, I appreciate you guys.
All the slabs getting released.
Oh my God. I know.
Team Rocket blasting off at the speed of light.
Oh my gosh. That is so true. We need to seriously, I'm gonna find you a Meowth mask. I really am.
Oh my God.
I am.
So funny. I don't think I own one even Meowth card anymore, even though I should. I don't think I do. I can't remember, but
we'll send you
funny,
some.
Guys.
We'll send you some. Anyways, y'all, I appreciate it. Have a good night, and
hey, y'all too.
See you on IG. Bye.
Thanks, guys.